What's going on, everybody? Here we are ready to do this Saturday night. And Rachel's with me tonight. Rachel, thank you for joining the panel. Appreciate it. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I don't know if you saw, but I was having a great giggle at some of the shots you put in that intro. I was like, I see my man Freddie. And then I was just like, yeah, night, let's go. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I tried to hit all the notes. The thing about the Halloween franchise, and I guess that's a great segue to just jump into this. I think the great thing about the Halloween franchise to me as a fan is is that roller coaster ride. We have some fantastic moments. We've got some moments that are in between that make us think, that make us question. We also have those moments that we kind of tilt our head to and say, what was going on there? What was the train of thought? And in some cases, they were trying to grow beyond the lane that the original film was riding in. And I understand that. This franchise will be 50 years old in just a couple of years in 2028. So for me, it's just been a fun ride. And of course, with the most current trilogy from David Gordon Green, it's reignited a lot of the fan base, for better or for worse in some cases. But I wanted to, kind of spend some time talking about the franchise in general, the entire franchise, and talk about the shape, and how I feel as though the shape has really helped to define horror at different points throughout the history of the franchise. And I think especially in the last several years, within the last six, 8 years, something like that, I think it's had a profound effect on modern horror. And we see that very much in a lot of other slasher films that have come out, and even Scream. Let's just get real. And you're a huge Scream fan along with me, but I really feel as though, Halloween 2018 really kind of set a bar, so to speak. And when Scream 5 came along in 2022, I think it was very smart of them to kind of just, kind of drift in that lane in their own way, because originally Scream 96 was inspired by Halloween 78. Kevin Williamson was a huge fan of 78, and you saw that throughout Scream and a lot of the future films. So, Rachel, when you think about Halloween as a franchise, just to start this off, what comes to your mind?
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is Michael Myers. I don't think another franchise. I mean, he is so iconic. We talk about the big four, and they're the big four because their killers are so iconic. It's like we've seen it. People are saying in the chat right now, he's mysterious. We don't know about him. I always think of Michael as like a great white shark.
Yep.
Like he's just coming for you. There's no complication. There's no look. I love Scream, but there's no phone calls here. There's no movie meta. It's just he's coming for you with a knife. And that's terrifying when you think about it. Like he cannot be reasoned with. I have told this story before, but the first time I watched Halloween, I literally could not look out the window. I was that scared. And this is when I was living in like a little granny flat in someone's garden. So it's not even like I was living on like a big suburban street or anything. And I remember when I watched the second movie, the first time I watched Halloween 2, I was almost relieved because I was like, oh, he has a reason. Okay, he's not just randomly killing people, which is so much scarier than him going after a family member. But I
Right.
also with the Halloween series, as much as I love it, it's a little chaotic. Like it's a little all over the place. And I think no other like series like this has the amount of timelines that this one has. And we were talking about that before we started. Halloween has like 5 different timelines within those 13 movies, and trying to figure
Yep.
out which timeline is where and which timeline meets up with what, it can get really confusing. And throwing a new fan in, imagine if a new fan comes in, they're like, okay, watch number 1 and then I go straight to 2018, or do I watch number 2
Right.
and then number 4? It's so chaotic, but like you said, it's got something for everyone. You
Yeah.
have the really intense thrillers that some people like. You have the more 90s slash early 2000s ones. You have some really, really fun schlock in there. Numbers 5, number 6, Resurrection. These are all like not the best quality, but still a lot of fun. So I always
Yeah.
think first thing I think is Michael. The second thing I think is chaos. And then I just think about the fun that you can have with this franchise, watching it, discussing it, because there are so many sides to it.
So many sides, and I think you hit on a lot of the great talking points about it. There's just so much going on with this franchise, and I think that's also a good thing because there are a lot of fans that gravitate towards certain aspects of the franchise and certain entries specifically, and I think that that also shows the strength of it because, tonight and for you guys in the chat, and we appreciate all of you guys being here, and a blanket hello to everyone. We're going to kind of talk about a few different topics just to kind of give you guys a sense of it. So we're going to kind of start with the origin. And obviously, when we talk about the origin, we're talking about Halloween 78. And I think with Halloween 78, that film, no one expected that film to do what it did and what it has done. Okay. Um, you had, in my opinion, one of those lightning in a bottle moments. The creatives behind the camera and in front of the camera, and especially, for a lot of these younger actors, most notably Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, the golden egg was given to her and said, "Let's see what you got. We know your mom's great. Let's see what you've got." And she absolutely nailed it and proved that she belonged in front of the camera and so forth. But that first movie, I watch this movie every year. It's just a part of my DNA, and it doesn't get old to me. And I think part of the reason for that, as well as some of my most favorite films, it's because it has a lot that I can enjoy, multiple layers that I can enjoy. And as a horror film, it's just fantastic. The tension, the way that the story is told, everything that's teased out, and of course, when you finally have, the confrontations, they're just wonderfully done, and, I mean, this movie was made on 50 bucks and shoestrings, basically, they did not have a huge budget. Most of their budget
Mhm.
went to Donald Pleasance because he was the G in the cast, you know what I mean? So it's just funny how a movie, an independent horror movie, by the way, could do so much with so little. But again, John Carpenter figuring out these things, figuring out that the music is going to be the icing on the cake. This is what's going
Mhm.
to make it all come together. This is the big, plastic wrap that we need on this thing to make it work. Dean Cundy, fantastic, legendary, the way that he was able to show Michael in this film, the way he was shot, the way he was, doing the lighting and so forth. I mean, these were all people that really had a lot of raw talent, and they came together. When you think about the origins of Michael Myers and what Halloween 78 means to you, how would you describe it?
Movie, it had such an impact on me. It was one of the earliest horror movies that I watched, and there is something so clean and simple about Halloween. It kind of shows that look, I love an over the top horror movie. I love
Yeah,
Final Destination, for example. I love seeing planes explode and guts go everywhere, but I think Halloween brings it back to that simplicity. All you
yeah,
need to scare the crap out of people is a guy in a mask on a suburban street and no motivation. And you talk about the cast, and yes, Jamie Lee Curtis was absolutely fantastic. She was a revelation. She really helped to solidify the final girl role. But I always think of Nick Castle, who was not even
mm.
supposed to play Michael. He was just a friend of John's. He'd gone onto the set one day and they're like, hey, do you want to play our bad guy? And from that, we got the most iconic performance. And I know that he has a background in ballet and dance. And I think that really helped because I remember hearing this story that he apparently, when he was filming his first thing, he went up to John and he's all like, okay, how do you want me to play it? Do you want me to do this or this? And John's like, man, just walk. Just
Yeah, just
walk and
walk.
then just walk. And from that, we got Michael Myers, and he's been played by so many different actors, so many different stunt doubles. You can debate, which ones are better or worse, but I don't think you can ever live up to that magic. And it really comes down to Nick's physicality and that mask, like the,
Yeah,
the OG mask is so terrifying. I've talked about this before, but when I can't see your eyes, I
yeah.
find that so scary. And for me, some of the more goofier Michaels are the ones where, where you can see his eyes and it kind of ruins the effect. But I always exactly, exactly. Exactly. Oh,
Bro,
there's that shot.
go ahead,
Oh,
go ahead.
dear.
I don't
I
wanna
was gonna
ju
say
I don't
there's
wanna
that
jump
shot in
ahead. Go ahead.
there's this shot in H2O where, Laurie is looking at Michael through, like, a round window, and it would be such an
Yep,
effective shot, except you can see his googly eyes coming through, and
yep,
it's like, well, that just ruins the shot. But, like, I
yep,
always think there's a great behind the scenes photo of Nick Castle with the mask pushed up onto his head, and he's feeding it like a can of Coke, and that right
yeah,
there just shows you how much it of a change it like, how much it comes down to him and his presence of him putting that mask on and just walking, and when I first saw Halloween '78, the scenes that scared me the most were the ones of Michael just lurking around the houses. Those shots, where little Tommy looks out the window and he sees Michael carrying Annie's body, or even when you just see Michael just walking across the street to Laurie as she's banging on the door, Tommy, let me in. And again,
yeah,
he's not doing anything scary. He's just
right.
walking. But that's what I say that he's like a great white shark. You can almost
Mhm.
hear the Jaws music coming in as he's creeping across the street. Dun it, dun it, dun.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like it's just so great. So I think that, really finding Nick Castle and having someone who had that presence and that fluidity to Michael, that is what made him so amazing. And I mean, when we get to talk about a little bit more about like different people who have played Michael, we'll go down the road. But whenever I come to my favorite Michael, I'm like, I always want to say James Jude Courtney because he's so good. But then I think you can't go past the OG because if we didn't have Nick Castle, we wouldn't have any of this. So
right.
yeah, I just really love the story that Nick wasn't even supposed to be. They didn't have a Michael, and then serendipity just happened, and we
Yeah,
ended up with one of the greatest horror villains of all time.
yeah, there's it's funny when you think about that because a lot was left to chance. I mean, hell, they weren't even gonna use the Shatner mask. They were gonna use a clown mask, they had
Mhm.
I think they had the president's mask and, something else, I can't
Nixon was
remember.
pretty scary when you think
Yeah,
about it. A
well,
Nixon mask would be pretty scary.
ah, and I think in Halloween 5, they kinda did an homage to that when Michael was in the car with the other mask, you know what I'm saying? So, shout
Mm.
out to them for at least knowing the history, but, they got the Shatner mask, they judged it up and all that type of stuff, and they're like, "Boom," and once he put the mask on, people were like, okay, that's the
Mhm.
one, so it's just interesting how all of that came together. In horror movies there have been tons, and of course Michael was obviously an early example of this, but there's been tons of masks that have been used, and I'll be quite honest, and there's iconic stuff obviously like Ghostface, and Jason got the hockey
Mm,
mask, and
mhm.
we've got some newer people too. We've got Art and all this different stuff. But I'm telling you, man, that Michael Myers mask is still, to me, one of the most effective overall. Overall, just saying, if a dude is walking down the street and he's got that mask on and you can't see his eyes, it's just there's a creepiness to it. There's a stillness that it creates. And
Mm.
like I said, they found that it was total chance, and I'm glad they did. I'm really glad they did. And again with 78, obviously we could talk about specific moments, but we've done that many times. I've done that thousands of times on this channel myself alone. But what I do want to say is I think that the structure of the film, the beats of the film, I think it plays very well. It takes you on this journey, and most importantly, for such and it's not a long film.
No.
What is it, 98 minutes or whatever, something
Yeah,
like
it's not
that.
even 2 hours. Yeah.
Not even 2 hours. And for such a short film and a small cast and crew, like I said, not a big budget, they're able to bring these characters on a decent arc, obviously,
Mhm.
especially Laurie Strode. And it's like, wow, they were cooking with grease, baby. They were cooking with grease. They made things happen. And when you get to the ending of the film, it's such a full circle moment because when Michael escapes in the beginning of the film and he's on the hunt, and Loomis is our POV, and he's telling us, he's pure evil. And the boogeyman, Tommy's calling him the boogeyman, the legend, the myth, and all of that stuff. When you get to the end of the film and Loomis looks for the body and it's gone, that look on Donald Pleasant's face says it all. And then John Carpenter, very smart. And again, I want to be fair to all the Halloween fans out there. You guys know we love Halloween here. I've done hundreds of videos on Halloween, but I want to give credit to Black Christmas from 1974 and Bob Clark. I'm gonna be real. Let's just sometimes you
Mhm.
just gotta be real, guys.
Yep.
And Carpenter did get inspiration from Bob Clark and Black Christmas because Black Christmas did similar things as well here and
Mhm.
there, you know what I mean? But Carpenter put his own signature on his
Yeah.
version of those things. But like I said, at the end of the film, when you see these places in the house and so forth that Michael was at and now is gone with the breathing, and then
The
of course,
breathing.
bro,
Mhm.
it's such a fantastic ending, and we didn't need anything else. We
No,
really
and
didn't.
I that breathing, it gives you that feeling that Michael is everywhere, that
Yes.
he's nowhere and he's everywhere at the same time, and that is such a theme through that movie, like, where is he? Where is he gonna pop up? He moves so silently, he moves so stealthily, and yeah,
Mhm.
those final shots of the empty house, it's like it's telling you, "The movie's over, Laurie's out of danger, but he's still there. His
Yes.
presence is still going to be there, and it's just such a wonderful moment, and I'm so glad you shouted out Black Christmas because I
Yeah.
adore Black Christmas. It's one of the pioneer movies when it comes to slashers. Jess is I think, one of the best, strongest final girls from the '70s, and you can definitely see the influence when you watch, Halloween, a lot of the POV shots that Bob Clark brought in, a lot of that, and if you've seen Black Christmas and you've seen the ending, you know it has a wham of an ending. And
Yes.
one of those endings that just shakes you to your core. So yeah, absolutely need to shout out Black Christmas, which is getting more love these days. I have noticed people
Yeah.
are recognizing it more, but definitely when horror movies were coming up and people were talking about them, in the '90s and the early 2000s, everyone would point to Halloween, and I'd be like, no, 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 let's talk about Black Christmas. Black Christmas is definitely one of the forefronts. So maybe one day
Yeah.
we'll do a Black Christmas deep dive. We could watch
Yeah.
all three movies and compare and contrast because the second two are not great, but
No.
it's fun stuff to talk about.
It's so true, man. But yeah, this whole beginning of this thing, I mean, it really it broke down the door for the slasher craze that was coming in the '80s,
Yeah.
most notably led by Friday the 13th. You
Mhm.
guys knew sooner or later I had to throw Friday the 13th into the
Knight's
conversation, but
gotta give a shout out to his boy Jason.
I'm just a messenger. Don't hurt the
Of
messenger.
course, of
But
course.
you guys know this is New Jersey. But I mean, but seriously, Friday the 13th, most notably, and they admitted it, and especially for any of you guys that are fans of horror or slashers or the early '80s and so forth. If you're a fan of Friday the 13th as well, check out Crystal Lake Memories because they literally said the idea was let's do what Halloween did. Let's rip off Halloween, add our own flavor, which to be fair, they did. Friday the 13th is totally different from Halloween, but that whole DNA of the slasher and stalking and so forth, and they amped it up into overdrive for better or for worse. Like it is what it is. But those early '80s from 1980 to about '85, was like the golden age of the slasher film. And Friday led that charge, but it wouldn't have happened without the success of Halloween in '78. And so it
Definitely.
it really has a huge shadow over horror. And again, to me, it's like a forefather. It truly is.
Yeah.
It took the elements that Black Christmas had started to show, and it went there, you know what I mean? And it kind of emphasized all these things. And of course, the killer. I think that they were so smart to have Michael, even though he was in the shadows. I mean, I call him the ultimate horror ninja because he is. But even though
Yeah.
he was in, even though he was in the shadows, he was front and center, and you saw him. And I think that that was so smart because you see the face of evil. You have the
Mhm.
fear of the boogeyman. And so, anyways, yeah, '78, uh, just a touchstone in not only horror but in film. But as far as horror, man, like to me, and I'm saying it as a fan, but even if I wasn't a fan, you can't talk about horror without having Halloween in the conversation, in my opinion, because it's just
No, I
its
agree.
shadow is too large.
Yes,
It just really
absolutely.
is.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Uh,
100%.
for all you guys that are jumping in, welcome, welcome. We appreciate all of you guys coming in. Don't forget to hit the like button. It helps us out so much. And also, if you're not subscribed to Rachel, make sure you guys do that. We've got the link in the chat, and Man's doing a great job with that. Thank you so much, May. If you have any questions or thoughts you want to throw in, if you send in a super chat, we'll make sure we'll get to it. We've got a couple more topics, and we even have a ranking of sorts. So we got a lot of stuff on the plate. We'll see how far we get with it. But Rachel, let's start to move into our second topic tonight. When we talk about the shape, the meaning of the shape, the symbolism of the shape, um, and if he's human, or is he not, or is he something darker than that, possibly? When you think of Michael Myers, how do you describe him? Is he human? Is he pure evil? What is he to you? Because he's a lot of different things to different people.
I hear that, and look, I'm gonna say this right now, he is human. There was no transference. No transference, okay? Michael, he is human, he is keeping his own evil, and if you've seen Halloween Ends, you know exactly what we're talking about. No transference. Look, I I know that I know, it's terrible. Just no. Okay, serious face now. Um, Look, Michael to me is always scariest when he's human
Yeah,
because it's the idea that a human could commit that kind of evil for absolutely no reason. You know, there is so much evil in the world in general. You're always trying to figure out what makes a person tick. Why would a person do this? So, Michael, like I said, for me, he's human, but he's like the human equivalent of a great white shark. No
yeah,
emotion, no reason. Like Ghostface, you could maybe reason with. Jason, you might be able to run away from. But like Michael Myers, he's going to find you. He is one of the only horror movie villains that I am 100% sure would 100% kill me. Like all the others, I'm like, okay, I could maybe do this. I could maybe outsmart this person. But if Michael Myers is coming for me, I'm dead. And
yeah,
that's how he's always been so scary. Now, I understand that with the various iterations of him, that he does go on to be something else. So if we're talking about the Thorn timeline, you know,
right.
obviously they try to make him something bigger, they try to make him a tool. For me personally, I don't like that. I understand that some people like, you know, bigger mythologies and things like that, but for me, Halloween, it was always about the simplicity. It was always
Yeah,
about cleanness, the minimalist. That's why I loved 2018 because I thought it took it back to that very, you know, core concept of this is just a killer who is
mhm,
just coming for you no matter what. And this idea of like someone who is soulless, the blackest eyes, you know, I looked into his eyes and there was nothing there. There's
yeah,
something so creepy and scary and eerie about that idea, you know, like because Michael killed as a child, you know, he didn't just
yes,
start as an adult, you know, like a lot of like you look at the ghost fake face killers, they all started as teens or adult, but Michael started when he was 6 years old for
yep,
no reason, just stabs his sister because he wants to. And then the whole creepiness of he hasn't said a word, like that part of Michael's mystique, and of course we will end up talking about Hobo Myers, but that part of Michael's so is so good because it's so very different. Freddy loves to quip. Freddy loves his quips, and that's what he is. And Ghostface has his phone calls, but Michael is just he's just silent. There's no that's why I loved we've talked about this before. That moment in 2018 when Allison weaponizes that, you know, he said something to me. I heard him speak, and Sartain, and not just Sartain. Sartain's almost like an audience surrogate because all of a sudden, even though we know it's not true, we're like, "What did he say? What did he say? Did he?"
right, right,
So I think I love when they play with that, and yeah, no, I love Michael as this idea of a great white shark. When they start to take him into other territories, it doesn't do so much for me. What
yeah,
about you?
yeah. Well, I feel as though it's hard to describe him, okay? And I've done this before, but the way I feel about it, and Carpenter has, what's the word I wanna use? He has kind of embellished this answer over the years. He's kinda played around with the answer over the years, but the way I look
Mhm,
at it, like that original film, he's a man. He has, like, if you're talking about a spectrum, towards being supernatural, Michael's kinda, like, heading in that direction, and
mhm.
I think that for me, the way I look at it is he is just so far removed from his own humanity. Like they say, he's the shape of a man. They called him the
Mhm,
shape. All of these things that they did in the movie, and I know not all of it was on purpose, but like I said, this movie is a lightning in the bottle type of movie,
mm,
including how the mythology just came together. Okay, that's how I look at it. So, when he gets shot 6 times, it's like he's a man because obviously he felt the bullets and he got pushed off of the balcony. But there is something inside of him, whatever you want to call it, something that drives him beyond normal means, okay? And so I would say he's and I think David Gordon Green actually described it as such for his trilogy because he wanted to honor John's vision of
mhm,
Michael. He's a man who is capable of some things that are almost superhuman or supernatural. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's the best way I can describe him, and that's the way I like him. I mean, like you said, we go full supernatural later on in the films, and we also go kind of full human in a way. It's kinda we we'll get there. We'll get there, Rob Zombie, don't worry, I got your number. So, they played with this throughout the franchise, but for me, the way he was depicted like in '78, Halloween 2 in '81, kinda in H4, maybe even in H2O. Those are the versions of Michael in 2018 as well. Those are the versions of Michael that kinda resonate with me the most or the best. You know what I'm saying? Because he is a man, but
yes. I agree. Mhm,
there's something about him that is just so it's odd, it's weird, and I mean, you see that
mhm,
with some people that are psychotic and so forth and so
mhm,
forth, and a lot of different types of things, and we're not gonna go down those rabbit holes, but and he a lot of those things exist within him. He hasn't spoken a word. He seems almost, and I'm saying almost impervious to pain. He feels
mhm.
pain though,
Oh, he does.
he does.
Mhm.
I mean, he does not like I would. I mean, if Lori shot my 3 fingers off or 2 fingers off, I would have screamed like a little girl, okay? Michael, he just gives like a, "Ooh," like a quick, "Ooh,"
Mhm.
and that's it,
Yeah,
you
oh,
know
that's
you
it.
know? Yeah, right? But you notice in Kills, when he goes to the old, folks' house, he wants to bandage up his hand,
Yeah,
so there
it's
is that human side of him there, which is what makes him fascinating to me. It really, really
mm,
does. Um, but to me, I think one of the questions that goes along with this is when we look at the different versions of him, what versions of him are you not a fan of? When we talk about this whole idea of human or supernatural, what versions of him kinda jump out to you and you say, "Ugh, that's not my Michael per se."
yeah. Look, definitely Curse of Michael
Yeah,
Myers. Like,
yeah,
that Michael who is we don't even need all sorts of stuff with his niece, which we don't need to go into, and then the curse thing. Like I never liked this idea that there was some sort of big cult around Michael. And again, look at the mask, man. I mean, the witch mask alone is, is what are we doing here? And this is the one right where all of a sudden the mask changes in one complete scene and it has like a completely different color and completely different hair. So
Yeah,
definitely this Michael. And like for me, that whole thorn thing, that was just it was too much. It really took away from that base thing that we were talking off of Michael being just a human. So definitely curse Michael.
yeah,
Um I will say ends Michael as well is
mhm,
not my Michael Myers. I mean, why are we wrestling with some punk down in the sewers? Like, come on, Michael Myers is better than that. And I look, I know he got the crap beaten out of him at the end of Kill, so he's gonna be moving a little bit slower. So I
right,
get that, but by the same token, yeah, no, wrestling around with Corey, the whole transfer thing, or whatever you want to talk about, like this Michael, this I went into ends so excited and came
right,
out so disappointed.
right,
So they're
right,
probably
right.
the 2 that work the least for me, but I gotta say some of the goofier Michaels also get me a bit, like, H2O, I do love H2O, I do. It's fun, it's from that era of slashes that I really loved. LL Cool J writing his romance novel is one of the best things in the Halloween
Is
franchise,
it though?
but
Is
no,
it
it's not.
though?
It's terrible, it's truly terrible, but I love it, I cannot get enough of it, especially when he keeps reading it to his wife, and she's like, "Baby, aren't you at work? Go do your real job and stop, trying to be a romance writer because it's not gonna
Right.
happen." But Michael in H2O, he's a bit goofy, and unfortunately, I can't really
Right?
deal with like goofy. Look, I can deal with goofy Michael if he's supposed to be goofy. So if you give me Resurrection where everything is stupid and everyone sucks, then I'm like, okay, I can accept a sucky Michael Myers. But H2O is very clearly supposed to be yeah. Look at this goof bag
This
with
fucking
his googly
guy.
eyes and that
But that's
scene.
not even
I
the worst part. That's not even
it's
the
not
worst
even the
part, Rachel. I'm gonna look, I've been holding back for the last 32 minutes. Let's just real quick remind the folks that look, H2O, listen, it's called H2O. So it's 20 years later.
yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis is back, ready to rock this thing. She's got the shortcut. She's great. The mom's in it. You got Hollywood royalty, horror royalty in this thing. And for whatever reason, the budget made a lot of mistakes because we had the most mask for Michael of all time, including the CGI. What are we doing? The CGI mask. What are we doing? I just want to throw that
That
out
is
there. I know it's
so
crazy.
bad.
It's
No, you're
crazy.
right. It's terrible. Look at that thing. That is worse than the witch mask, okay? And that's
It
saying something
is.
because the Nicolas Cage mask is terrible. But
It
like
is.
what happened in this scene? What happened? Did no one notice that the stunt double was just not wearing the
Uh,
mask? Oh, it's terrible. But you've got that.
uh,
You've got Josh Hartnett and Michelle Williams with their backs against the wall and Michael literally like
yes.
like what
We're
is
pulling a
that?
ghost
And then
face.
pulling a ghost face, and then he gets punched out by Josh Hartnett. Like
Yeah.
again, if this was supposed to be a stupid movie, I could get on board with it. It's like Kill and I have talked about in Resurrection because it's all so stupid. You kind of just have fun with it, but in this one. No, it just not. And then and the one part I could never get over was when he lowers himself one armed behind
Yeah.
Laurie. It's like, what
Yeah.
have we just been? Are we just beefing up in the institution? Have we spent the last 20 years just turning into like
Hey.
some sort of bodybuilder? Like, come on,
Hey.
man, what are we
Hey.
doing?
He was working on those arms,
It was
boy.
it was like, I will not be defeated this time.
No,
Let's
no.
go.
But what's even worse, if you think about that scene, this is what's even worse about it, Rachel. And me and Coriander and Kill, we've talked about this many times before. But think
Mm.
about this. Laurie walked past him, underneath of him, before he lowered down. Are you telling me? And that ceiling wasn't that high. Are you telling
No,
me
it
she did
wasn't.
not see friggin' Michael Myers just hanging up
Hanging from
above
the
her?
ceiling.
What are we doing? I love these movies and I love these characters, but what
Sentence
are we doing?
alone. I'm like, you're talking about a Halloween film, and we're talking about Michael Myers hanging from the ceiling. Like
Yes.
this is like Freddy on a broomstick. What are we doing here?
It's crazy.
Oh
It's
dear.
absolutely crazy. So yeah, no, I get it. The H2O version has some funny things going on too. Look, for me, I think the chat knows where I'm about to go with this as far as, versions of Michael
Oh no.
that I don't think worked the way I wanted him to. And it's not up to me, right? But I still love all of these movies. I can watch every single movie in this franchise and have fun with all of them, even the ones I'm not a big fan of. But you guys know who I'm going to bring up right now. You guys know his name. He's out in the fields right now trying to get enough for bus
Hungry
fare.
night? He was
Listen,
just hungry. Come
listen,
on. A man's gotta eat.
listen. Yeah, yeah. A man does have to eat. But Michael Myers, I don't want to see Michael Myers doing average human shit because he's not just a human. But look, this guy, fuck this guy. Okay. I'm just I'm just saying. I mean, look, and listen, and I'm playing around a little bit too. You guys know. Look, I see Danielle in the chat, Team Hobo Myers. You know the truth, Danielle. But no, seriously, I'm playing around a little bit about it. I've actually come around on a lot of elements about Halloween 2 from 2009. And one of the things I do appreciate about it, and Rachel, we've talked about it when we've collabed before, Laurie Strode, what a depiction and an acting
Oh, yeah.
performance by Scout.
Mhm.
Some
Yep.
great stuff that Scout did, as well as Danielle Harris, as well as a lot of the cast
Mhm.
and crew. But I do think that the issue I had with this Michael Myers, and I'm just talking about this one specifically. We can talk about
Yep.
Rob Zombie's Halloween too, but I just felt as though they had peeled back so many of the layers for me, just for me.
Mhm.
He was kind of unrecognizable. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. He was out in the fields. His hair's gonna grow. Obviously, he has to wear the coat because it's cold outside. I get it. Of course, that all makes sense. But it just felt like he was just so more removed from what makes Michael special, and his mythology. I've said this time and time again. His mythology is one of the most interesting to me, because of all of the things that have happened starting all the way back when he was 6 years old. Now, I'm not saying it's the most
Mhm.
creative mythology because I think Freddie takes that, as far as creativity and what happens in the Elm Street movies. But as far as like the cool factor and the intrigue factor, I think Michael's mythology is really second to none. And I feel as though, and Rob Zombie was trying to deconstruct that to a degree. And I get it. You don't want to sit there and just try to copy John Carpenter. I get it. And I don't begrudge him that. But I just feel like, especially once we got to his Halloween 2, we we were just we just like going off that track so far. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? So for me, that's a version of Michael that I never really got too behind. I agree with you about Curse of Michael. I mean, look, we're throwing stones at the boogeyman to control him.
Yeah.
Michael
Yeah.
Myers, Michael Myers became a mafia heavy. That's what he was. He was a collector. Okay. Hey, we need something
Mhm.
done. Send Michael to go get it.
And Michael.
Are
Uh-huh.
you what are
Yeah.
we what? Who?
I know.
So I just didn't like that. There
Mhm.
are aspects of Curse of Michael Myers though that I've come around on. It's not Listen, none of this stuff is in a violent nature to me, okay?
Yep.
Okay, or Skinamarink. This is not We're not in that neighborhood.
Skinamarink. Ugh.
We're not in that neighborhood, but, as
No.
far as Michael Myers,
Mhm.
there are some things that they've tried to do to further the franchise that I just don't think worked very well. So,
No.
those are 2 examples for me anyways
Mhm.
that I'm not really big on. And just
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Beaten by Paul Rudd's white skinny ass? Like, come on, man. Again, it's like, I'm not buying this.
But he is Paul Rudd, though. I mean, Paul Rudd is amazing, though.
Yeah, but, like, when you think Paul Rudd, you don't exactly think, "Yeah, that's a dude that could beat up Michael Myers," you know? Like, might be a guy who could sit down and talk with Michael Myers really
Yeah,
nicely because he's such a good guy, but no.
yeah,
I I've talked about this before, but I know he was very young, and it was at the beginning of his career, so he was probably
yeah.
just taking any role that he could take, but he's so badly miscast in
He
that,
is. Oh my
and he's
god.
such a creeper.
Yeah,
Him
he
creeping on his
is.
neighbor with his big ass board and kidnapping babies and God knows
Yeah.
what.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just yeah, they just did some fu even Michael in that
Yeah.
film, not even just the stones and being controlled. Bro was handing wash towels in that scene with the young guy and the girl. It's like, boy, get down to business. You're not supposed to be giving them towels. You're supposed to be giving them a killing. What are you doing? So, anyways, I just think that those things take away from the mystique. Like, that's part of what
Yes.
is his engine for me, is that mystique. And I give a
Mhm.
lot of credit to David Gordon Green. And as we talk more about the trilogy, I know there'll be some people that they're gonna start bracing because Evil dies tonight. But I want to give David and crew a lot of credit because I think they tried to still keep the mystique in a bottle.
Yes.
They
Yes.
didn't want to totally open the door on all of that because I think they understood, and they've said it, or David has said it. He understood that the mystique of Michael is part of the magic of
Mhm.
Michael, you know, and once you start opening up that mystique like they did in Curse or like Rob Zombie did in 2007, he's not as scary.
No,
He's
no,
just
I
not.
agree.
You know? Like, you like,
Yeah.
that scene in 2018 that we keep referencing, that Allison showed her wits, and it's a fantastic scene all around, but Michael in that scene, for whatever reason, and he didn't even kill anyone yet,
Mm.
but just sitting in the back with innocent Allison, it was scary, you know?
Mhm. It was
He didn't do
terrifying.
he didn't talk, he didn't do any grunting, he he had his mask on, and all he did was he turned to her, and I was just like,
Oh,
"Girl,
right, right.
bye."
Just crapped my pants right then. It was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah,
I will say one thing I did like that the David Gordon Green trilogy did in Kills, but then they dropped it in Ends, is they started to build this mythology that Michael may be tied to Laurie and that she may
yeah,
have to die for him to die. And I remember
yes,
thinking that was a cool angle. That was almost like there was like building him out a little bit without making it uber supernatural. And there was also a bit in Kills about the boogeyman gets stronger when you believe in him. The boogeyman gets stronger
yes,
when you know about him. The boogeyman gets stronger when his legend becomes bigger. And I was very disappointed that Ends kind of dropped that angle because I thought that was a really good angle in making, making Michael something a bit bigger than just a human, but not going
right,
as far as, a stupid curse or something like that. It was just saying
right,
his legend has gotten so big, he has gotten so big, Laurie as a legend too has gotten so big that they're now completely intertwined. And I loved that little monologue that Laurie gave at the end of Kills, where it was all like, maybe evil won't die until I die, things like that. And I
yeah,
I was really annoyed that Ends dropped that because I thought that was an interesting angle that built
mhm,
out Michael's legend without making him too over the top. At least that's how
yeah.
I saw
Yeah, I thought they did a great job of kinda building that and adding, it was kinda like adding to his mythology for me,
that.
you know, and even, Frank was saying, you know, "I if only we knew then what we know
Yes,
now,
what we know
you know,
now.
about
Mhm.
him," you know, yada, 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 and of course, this was during the ultimate Haddonfield beatdown where
Yes.
Michael laid open, multiple cans of whoop ass, you know, on, like, 35 civilians. And but you know that scene, and I've heard some people, and I'll ask you in a second about it. I've heard some people criticize that scene, you know, for multiple reasons, or you know, the way that it was shot, or the way that it was, you know, Michael killing everyone was choreographed. I thought it was fantastic. Number one, because number one, as soon as he finds the mask, which of course Karen was baiting him, and
Mhm.
it showed that connection to the mask in such an organic way, and as soon as he sees the mask, that's all that he cares about. He bends down to pick it up, the lights come on, they pulled the okey doke on him. It's a trap. "It's a trap, Scooby-Doo, it's a trap." And Michael is just, like, looking around, and again, he's not talking, he's not grunting like he did in Rob Zombie's movies. It's totally like there's no reaction. He could give a shit. There's
Mhm.
I mean, honestly, I think it's like 30 people or so. It could have been 3,000, and it would not have mattered to this Michael Myers the way he was
Nope.
depicted, because
Mhm.
all that mattered was the mask. And he reaches down to grab the mask, and that music kicks. Everyone knows who's watching me talk about this. You guys know where I'm going. I got to do it. Let me cook. He reaches down for the mask. The music kicks in. He puts it on, and he's just like, he just looks around like, and you know what I'm saying? And you know, of course, now what's interesting though is that, you know, these civilians, to give credit to the filmmakers, these civilians are ready because people have guns, they have knife, they have everything, of course, even irons, but whatever. But he basically gets whooped. He gets whooped, and he's down on the ground. Karen stabs him right in the back. And I remember in the theater, I was like, wait a minute now. Let's hold on. Let's not do my boy like that. You know, I'm all about defeating Michael, but it just seemed like, and then that's when, you know, this is where my story is going. That's when Laurie and Frank have that conversation that you mentioned. And I think both of these elements elevated each other is what I'm getting at, because when they started talking about, the more we fear, the stronger he gets and all that type of stuff, and all of a sudden
Mhm.
he pops back up and he gets to work, and I was just like,
Mhm.
what? And I mean, he is just going to town. A great scene as far as what we saw Michael doing, but I think it was really elevated by the conversation of Laurie and Frank building up that mythology without going all the way to the edge with stones. Okay. Okay. And so yeah, just a great moment. A great moment. I love that scene, man. We were
Agree.
all hyped.
When you're describing when you were watching it, all I'm thinking is, man, it is such a shame that we live on opposite sides of the world because we could have so much fun watching some of these movies together. Because I
Yes.
remember like sitting there when that scene happened, and I've said this before, but like he steps out, he looks up, and I'm like, oh, every single one of you dudes is about to die.
Yes,
I just
yes.
you it's one of those moments where it's like, yeah, there's 3,000 people here, but that's Michael fucking Myers. He's
Yeah.
going to kill every single one of you. And I was exactly the same. I'm watching him, he's getting stabbed, he's getting shot at. Karen's come over, they put the pitchfork in his back, and but then there's that moment where you just see it just snaps, and then all of a sudden it's like great white shark activated.
Yep.
And I've said this about Kills Michael. He's so precise. There is no effing around with him. He's
Yeah.
not slashing a He's not slashing, through a gate or whatever. He is stabbing you. He's punching you. He's coming out, and yeah, the voiceover, the Laurie talking. The more we fear him, the stronger he grows. And I always loved that final shot of him and Tommy face to face because, like, I
Yes.
wanted Tommy to survive. I knew he wasn't going to. I knew he was going to go. But that beautiful shot where Tommy, you can almost see it on his face. You can see him realizing, oh my God, I've lost. He's
Yeah.
won. He does not die tonight. And
Right.
that was one of my. I mean, Kills has so many great scenes, like so many great scenes. But
Yeah.
that was one of my favorites. Haddonfield versus Michael Myers, not just in the way that it was filmed and the way that it was shot, but for the narrative. This town has lived with this legend of this boogeyman who has come in and wrecked this town before, and now he's back trying to do it again. So of course the town is going to rise up against him. And again, like I was saying, I think it just works so well with the legend that they were building, and it's such a pity that ends kind of just dropped off. But no, I love that scene.
Mm.
I know we can talk about how much damage Michael can take. Like he's getting
Yes.
shot, he's getting stabbed, he's getting this, but this is where I'm saying, like, yes, he's human, he's slightly elevated human, but he's Michael Myers. Like I
Yeah.
think that's all that you say. It's like it's Michael Myers, he's going to come through, he's gonna survive, and he's gonna kill every single mofo that he can along the way. And that
Yeah.
is what is so great about his character is, and again, it's that great white shark. He just keeps going. No matter
Yes.
what you throw at him, no matter what you do, he keeps going. And you can say that in a meta sense as well. I mean, look at the franchise. The
Mhm.
franchise just won't die because he is such a legend. And I think, no, I think that scene, it really, it's one of my favorites in Kills. It's probably one of my favorites in the franchise. James Duke Courtney, again, it's like you said, the moment he gets that mask and when he puts on, it's almost like you can see him, like you said, he doesn't give any F's. He's like, it's kind of like, all right, let's go, people,
Yeah.
come on. And it's just, oh, it's amazing. No, I love Kills. Kills deserves so much more love than it gets.
It does. It really does. I mean, this is the most Michael Myers movie of any Michael Myers movie. Like, it
Mhm.
truly is, him and his POV and the town's POV perspective, you
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? And another thing too, just to say about that last point I wanna make on this particular topic, but, in that scene, like you talked about Tommy, think about Tommy for a second here. He realized what the boogeyman was as a kid. He saw the
Mhm.
boogeyman. He was traumatized by the boogeyman. Laurie saved him and Lindsay. We go to Paul Rudd's character, who's totally obsessed with Michael. He knows Michael
Mhm.
Myers' social security number. Okay, that's what Paul Rudd was doing in in the Curse of Michael
I know.
Myers. He is absolutely obsessed, and he
Mhm.
is he is, like, studying him like, I don't know, like a patient of sorts, even
Mhm.
though he's not a doctor. And then you have the trilogy's version of Tommy, who has taken all of that and just kind of hardened himself. You
Yep.
know,
Mhm.
we will not stand for this. Thank you, Lori. Let's drink to Lori. She's our hero. And he wants to help people that have been hurt by Michael and that are being hurt by Michael in the film. So in other words, he's taking all of that negative trauma, he's turning it into a weapon. He's going
Mhm.
forward instead of
Yes.
standing still and watching or
Mhm.
retreating like he did as a kid in 78. And I think it's a really interesting arc, but of course, look, you F around and find out because I mean the boogeyman is still the boogeyman, right? So in
Yeah.
that scene when he's face to face with Michael and they show them locked up, it's a side to side view of them. The look on Anthony Michael Hall's face is just totally like, oh my God, this is it. You are pure
Mhm.
evil, and
Yep.
it's an
Yep.
interesting thing to think about, and obviously tragic because this poor man
Mhm.
has lived with this his whole entire life, basically. And at the end of the day, he still gets defeated by the boogeyman.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
crazy.
I love that small moment when he sees Laurie in the hospital and he says to her, "Laurie, you protected me. Now I'm going to protect you." It shows that even though they may not be in each other's lives anymore, he still remembers. He remembers Laurie doing everything she could to save him.
Yeah.
And that kind of like he wants to pay it back. And then, I mean, he then goes into Evil Dies Tonight and is a bit of a twat. But other
Yeah.
than that,
Yeah.
I actually really like Tommy in Kills. I think his arc is really good. I really love when he gets up and tells the story of the boogeyman. I think, if he
Yes.
anyone, that's a great person to, to share that story. And I think that Anthony Michael Hall does a really good job with the character. I like really like, except for the Evil Dies Tonight part where he decided to, go all crazy. I thought Tommy was, yeah, he was a great character. And yeah, that it really is tragic to see him die. Even though it's gonna happen, even though you spend the whole movie thinking, please just let Tommy survive, it's gonna happen. But the way they built it up and the way they did his death, it gave him a death that was very memorable,
Yeah.
and kind of fitting, I mean, eventually the boogeyman is going to come back and get you, and that's what he realizes
Eventually.
in his last moments. And yeah, that shot and that scene is played so well.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. There were so many great things and callbacks of sorts, and it just makes you think about these characters, their whole entire history, and it was a big moment, and I thought they nailed it. I really do.
Yeah.
Real quick too in the chat before we get to our third topic. Welcome everyone that's jumping in. We appreciate you guys. We have got Ben in the house. What's up, Ben? Thank you so much for sending a super chat. We really appreciate that. You rock, man. Saying night, Rachel, Halloween is an immortal classic, but it does owe so much to Black Christmas. Yeah, we were
Hmm.
talking. I
Yep.
don't know if you were in earlier, but we were talking exactly about that. Despite Michael Myers' mileage as opposed to Billy's Battle World, Dead and Buried versus Messiah of Evil. Ben, I'll tell you what, man, you never know, but I can't promise it, but you just never ever know. We have a couple things that we're working on actually, to be honest with you, but we'll see, man. But thank you so much for the support and also always giving a great comment and being positive. We appreciate you, bro. Seriously. And also, if you haven't hit the like button, please do. It helps us out. We appreciate it, and helps us to keep doing streams like this on a Saturday night, if you can believe it. Rachel, let's go to our third topic. We're talking about these crazy ass timelines, trying to break down and make sense of the 80,000 timelines that this franchise has. Um, let's start with you. When we talk about the timelines of Halloween, first of all, what are your thoughts on that? Because Halloween is very famous for having multiple timelines, and I'm talking about like all over the place.
Hmm. It's crazy. I was just thinking, I think Halloween is really the only franchise to do this. Like all the other franchises, they're still connected. Freddy's still
Yes.
going through victims bit by bit. And I haven't seen all of the Friday the 13th films, but I assume it's the same with Jason. Like you just keep moving through time. Whereas Halloween, it just keeps resetting. And when I saw that you wanted to discuss the timelines, I actually went and did a little bit of research and I got them all sorted. So there are one, two, three, four, there are five timelines in this
Mm.
in 13 movies. So the two easiest to kind of remember are Obviously, Season of the Witch stands by itself. It doesn't have
Right.
any continuity or anything. So that one is by itself. Then you've got the zombie films, which of course those two are just together. They're the ones that take place in the early 2000s and the flashbacks from the late 90s. But it's when we get to the timelines that involve, the 78 movie and then the 4, the 5, or the 2018, whatever. So I actually went to Zach Cherry's YouTube because he has a video where he breaks down the timelines. And so he broke those down into three. He calls them the Loomis timeline, the Laurie timeline, and the Michael timeline. So the
Oh,
Loomis timeline is our original one. It's 1978, then number 2, then 4, 5, and 6. So that's, Jamie, The Curse of the Thorn, etc.
yeah.
And obviously Loomis is our main character, so I understand why he called it that. Then you have the Laurie timeline. Now the Laurie timeline is again 78, then number 2, but then we skip to H2O, and then
Mhm.
unfortunately we have to include Resurrection because
Mhm.
it does
That's
fit in
right.
there. So that's the Laurie timeline. And then lastly, we have the Michael timeline. So that is 78, then straight to 2018, kills and ends. Now, personally, the Michael timeline is my favorite one because I mean, like I said, when I first watched Halloween and then watched Halloween 2, and I originally liked the brother-sister link because Michael scared me so badly. I was like, "Okay, good. He's got a reason. He's going after his sister, so he's not gonna come after anyone who's not related to him. We're safe." But
Mhm.
over time, I came to dislike that because I realized that Michael, at least for me, is much more effective when he doesn't have a motive. So for
Yeah.
me, the 2018 movie getting rid of everything else and just being a direct sequel to 78, that worked so well for me. And we all know I love kills, and ends has got a lot to be desired, but there are worse movies in the franchise than ends. So,
Oh, yeah.
so that's not too bad. So that one's my favorite. I think the one that I like the least is actually the Loomis timeline. And I think it's because again, I don't like the Circle of the Thorn. I don't like that we get into all of that. Losing Laurie after number 2 is a bit of a I mean, I do love Jamie, and I think that Jamie in number 4 is a great protagonist, and 4 has like one of my favorite endings in the series. That
Yes.
that ending in number 4, so good. But yeah, the Loomis timeline, I think it's a little bit silly, whereas the Laurie timeline, I mean, I love 78, H2O and Resurrection both fall into that era of slashes that I absolutely adore, so I love those 2. And while I'm not as big a fan of 2, again, there are definitely worse in the series. So for me, the Michael timeline is really the big one because for me, Michael, he's the star of this series. Like, yeah, we love Laurie Strode. She's our great final girl, but Michael is what makes Halloween Halloween. And
Right.
I I remember sitting in the cinema room. This is why I think it's such a pity we can't watch movies together night because I remember that scene where he opens the trunk and he takes out the mask and the
Yeah.
music starts playing, and I was like just like bouncing around in my seat like, "Yes, he's back, he's back." And I was so excited to see this version of Michael come back because he'd been missing for so many movies. And that's the other thing. I find Michael in a lot of these other movies, he doesn't have that aura that I want, and you can see his eyes and he's wearing stupid witch masks and there's all sorts of, crap going on. But
Right.
with this one, 78 2018 and Kills, they are like the cream for me. They are the top in this franchise. And so for me, the Michael timeline is the one that I enjoy the most. But I mean, I do like watching all these movies. There are some that I don't love as much as others, but it's you can always find something to like, and there's always something fun going on. So like number
Yeah.
4, which I'm not that big on, but I love the opening credits. I love the end scene. I think Rachel and Jamie have a really great relationship. Things like that. But definitely the Michael timeline for me. What about you, Knight?
Well, I think that I can appreciate all of these timelines in their own way. I definitely come to a point where I can say, okay, well, I like one over the other and that type of vibe. But for me, and we actually talked about the timelines when Steven and I did Halloween Fest 3. We actually let me bring it up. We had a breakdown of the timelines. And it was really, really
There we
cool
go.
because when you
Mhm.
think about it, and there's actually a couple of more, and actually you could almost make up your own timelines as far as things that you look for in the Halloween films and so forth. But like you said, you've got the zombie films are their own thing, and that's what we called just basically the remake timeline, Halloween
Mm.
and then Halloween 2. And then of course you had the Season of the Witch, which kind of was its own thing as well because it's outside of the Michael story. And then you have John's timeline, John Carpenter, which to me, I look at that as you could go a couple different ways because to me, Halloween 2 also has connections to John Carpenter, even though he
Mhm.
didn't direct it. He was the force behind it, begrudgingly, of course, because he did not want to have
Yes.
a sequel to his film. But and of course with the David Gordon Green trilogy, they have their connections to John. They tried to honor what John did and so forth. So for some people, and I know Coriander is big about this, she loves going from Halloween 78 right to the trilogy with nothing in between. And it's kind of like, yeah, but what about this or what about that, for me, growing up, I just always did that original run of, Halloween, Halloween 2, 4, 5, and 6. And even though 4, 5, and 6 is kind of considered the Thorn trilogy or the Jamie Lloyd trilogy, I enjoyed Jamie Lloyd as a character so much as a kid that I can't not watch those films. You know what I mean? But and people in the chat, don't get mad at me because I'm not even talking about Rob Zombie. I mean, Rob Zombies is fine. We'll get to that, I'm sure. And Rachel and I have talked about Rob Zombie at nauseum as well. But if I could only pick one, even though I'd love to go 78, um, H2O, and then the trilogy, of course, that doesn't really work by having H2O in there. So if I only had to pick one, it probably would be 78 and then the trilogy. Because I just think that you got the whole story there. Lori and Michael, they're not brother and sister. That's the other aspect of how you differentiate the timelines is the whole idea of being brother and sister, and of course that makes things a lot more sticky, shall we say. So that's kind of
Yes.
where that's where I kinda end up. You guys in the chat, let us know, which version of the, timeline you enjoy the most, because there's a lot of people that enjoy different things just for different reasons, you know what I mean? And I understand that. I truly do. Um, but all of them have their merit in my opinion. All of them do. When Rob Zombie's Halloween came out in 2007, me and my brother, we went to go see it. We were excited, and we took a ride, bro. We took a ride. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
you did.
I will say it was a fun theater experience. Obviously, Tyler Mane was absolutely vicious. He's
Mhm.
grunting and running and lifting up cars like Lou Ferrigno in the Incredible Hulk 70s TV show. Hey, whatever. Let's let's go, baby.
He can drive in one trilogy, having grown up in an institution, he can lift cars up in another. I mean, come on, let's
Yeah.
not limit him when it comes to his automobiles.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, look, the guy's he's talented,
He's
Um,
multi-talented. Mhm.
he's multi-talented. He really is. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of great ways that you could go with this franchise, and especially now, I think this trilogy has really kind of like, and I'm not saying, completed it, but it's definitely given it a lot more meat on the bone, for
Yeah.
people to check out because, and I'm sure at some point, if not tonight, but at some point, I'm sure, we'll have moments to get, back into things like ends. And even though a lot of people were frustrated with it, myself included, admittedly, I was too. They did some interesting things, and I saw what they were trying to do. They were
Mm.
trying to elevate this idea of the boogeyman in a different way. I just feel as though the way that they did it um, wasn't as effective as maybe they thought, and I also thought it unfortunately undercut Michael, which you don't wanna do in a Halloween
No.
film, I mean, and we've seen that type of thing happen before,
Mhm.
just like in something like Jason Goes to Hell, they undercut Jason, and so it's like, "Bro, this isn't even a Friday the 13th movie. What are we doing? You know, and so you don't want to undercut the villain because the difference with Halloween versus Scream, like we can talk about Scream 7 and I can talk about my frustrations of the reveal and the motive and the Ghostface killers after they're unmasked all I want. But the truth of the matter is that's a small part of what Scream is. Scream is about the characters themselves as opposed to the villain, whereas in Halloween, Elm Street and Friday, they're about the villain. The villain is in the
Mhm.
forefront. The villain has to
Absolutely.
be effective. If the villain isn't effective, then you lose. You just lose. So,
Absolutely. Mhm.
yeah, so I think Ends, skated too far in that direction and really lost a lot of people, unfortunately. It is what it is.
I feel with Ends too, and I know they had COVID, so they had to change their plans
Right.
and their script and stuff, but I feel like when you watch the David Gordon Green trilogy, you're actually watching 2/3 of a trilogy and then a standalone movie. Like, the first 2 movies, they feel very linked together, and it's not just the fact that they take place on the same night. Thematically, character-wise, they feel like they're connected, and then number 2, like I said, it was building up this whole, Laurie and Michael being connected and the legend of
Yes.
him, and then number 3 comes along, and it feels like number 3 feels like a sequel that came, like, 10 years after Kills was made, like, they just decided, "Let's do another sequel," as opposed to the concluding chapter of a trilogy, which is what it was supposed to
Yes.
be, and so I think for me, that was a big component of why Ends didn't work, because I was so psyched up for what they were gonna do after Kills, and we were gonna have this like, I thought we were gonna, I don't know, maybe have Laurie, like, tracking Michael around the country after he'd left Haddonfield or something like that. I wasn't expecting to suddenly come back to a Laurie who's baking cookies and,
Yeah.
just living with her granddaughter. And yeah, and again, I know there were behind the scene issues. I know they had to change the story, and maybe that changed it and made it different to what it was going to be. But they promoted the David Gordon Green movies as a trilogy. So I'm like, but it's
Yes.
not a trilogy. It doesn't work as a trilogy. And so for me, that's where Ends, one of the reasons that Ends drops the ball.
Yeah. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one because again, they had a lot of stuff that they were dealing with. In a way it's a little bit of bad luck, just like Scream has had some bad luck. In a way, as far as issues that are beyond the film that itself, you know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, I think for any horror franchise or any horror movies that have come along and want to have continuations, I think these are things you got to learn from, which is why, leaving the theater with Scream 7, I was kind of like, bro, did you guys not see Halloween Ends? What are we doing here? We got to
I know.
learn from these things. And I talked about that before seeing Scream 7. Actually, me and Jake, we had a stream and I said, Scream should learn from Halloween's mistakes because Halloween has made mistakes over the course of the franchise and especially in the Gordon Green trilogy. So, it is what it is. I mean, hopefully other franchises like Terrifier or Black Phone or even Thanksgiving, I want to give credit to Thanksgiving because I think they easily could have rushed out a sequel, but Eli Roth wanted to take time on the script and the story. He said, I want to make sure that this is going to be good and hopefully it will be good. At least right now, I can say, okay, I'm glad you're going to take your time and you're not just going to rush back out there with something that's half handed just to get that money, get that sequel money, you know? Because, these are things like it could derail a franchise. Fortunately for, Scream and Halloween and Friday and Elm Street, they're so high up on the board, it would take a lot of stuff to take them out of the game. You know what I mean? Like they have decades worth of fans and material and lore. So, again, for these other franchises, take some lessons from the kings, bro. That's all
Yep.
I'm saying,
Hey,
Um,
look, at least Scream 7 didn't have any sort of evil transference, so we're safe on that,
I
Ghostface
know.
isn't grabbing Tatum out of the shadows
I
and doing some
know.
fudge.
Oh my god. Let me ask you this. Do you have more issues with Halloween Ends or Scream 7?
Oh god, Jesus. I honestly don't know because I really didn't like either of them, but I feel like I'm more passionate about my hatred for Halloween Ends, whereas Scream 7, it just
Mm,
kind of was more boring, like, I was just kind
mhm.
of watching it going, there's nothing that's really offending me, but I'm also not getting excited." Whereas Halloween Ends, I'm like, "I hate Corey, I hate the transference, I hate old man Michael floundering around in the in the sewers,"
Yeah,
So more passionate about my dislike of Halloween Ends. I think that one was more offensive to me, but
yeah,
Scream 7 was just for me, it was just boring, and they just didn't put enough effort into it,
yeah,
just into everything. At least Ends had some characterization. I might have agreed with the characterization, but,
yeah,
like Andy is she's moving on, she's doing nursing, she's trying to rebuild her life, Laurie's writing her book, were things I could see where they were going and what they were trying to do, even if I didn't think it worked as well.
yeah.
But no, I think I get more passionate about Halloween Ends, but I think it's just because Scream 7, it wasn't so much offensive as it was just blah, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think and for me, I wasn't as, hard on Scream 7 because I think that's because I enjoyed Ghostface a lot.
Okay.
I really did enjoy the kills and the stalking. Granted, they definitely homaged Michael a lot with Ghostface coming
They
out
did.
of the shadows.
Mhm. Yep.
Ghostface must have done the Michael setup at least 3 times, and I'm like, "Okay, guys, we get it.
Didn't he?
We get
Yeah.
it. You love
I don't
Michael.
know,
We
for me,
do too."
with Ghostface, it just doesn't work because Ghostface, he's never been a subtle killer. Ghostface is not
Yeah,
subtle. Ghostface comes out
right.
swinging and starts eviscerating people and stuff. So, like, having
Yeah.
him hide in the shadows, I'm like, this is not working as well. I feel really bad about how much I dislike Scream 7, especially because, I'm such a Scream stan, but I just
I know.
came out of that so disappointed.
I
Anyway,
know.
we
I
shouldn't derail the Halloween conversation, but yeah,
No,
I
no,
I
no,
felt
no.
really
Well,
bad.
I think it's apropos because, I mean, I think both of these films, in one way or another or multiple ways, kinda took risk and either it depending on who you're talking to, either won or lost, because of those risks. And I think with Halloween, you know having it be 4 years later, I think, was a mistake. It didn't
Yeah.
necessarily need to be on the same night. Maybe if it was a year later or something, which of course they did between, 4 and 5. But being 4 years later and Michael having basically had whatever it was, a dozen gunshot wounds and stab wounds, and he's living in the sewers. Like, okay, I get it. Like, that would like F him up, but
Mhm.
I don't necessarily want to see that version of Michael, and
Exactly.
if
Mhm.
I did, they had that scene when Corey lured the cop into the sewers and Michael killed him, and Corey was like, "Do it again." And Michael, it's like he's getting his mojo back, and he does the like little shake, the Hulk Hogan shake, and I'm like, "Yeah, baby, yeah, get it going, let's go." And I thought that would have been an interesting angle for them to go down, even if it was just a little bit, is to show that, okay, that act of killing, that adrenaline from killing, that pleasure that he takes from killing, or whatever you want to call it, it kind of brings him back physically. And again, that's all mythology shit. Like, I thought for sure that's where we were headed, and we and we didn't. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are we doing with Michael here? Like, I don't know, man. It was just really odd, the choices that they made in that film. And it could have been fixed with just a couple of things, just like with Scream 7. I think there's a couple of things that if Scream 7 had done, it would have changed a lot of the frustration of that film. And I agree that that would have been the same thing with Ends. If Michael, if he didn't get bitch slapped in the sewers by Corey, if he had at least one, if not two other kill scenes, those type of things, I think it would have made people, including myself, feel more okay with Halloween Ends. Because, the film, it's shot beautifully.
Yeah.
There's some interesting character arcs. There is some bloody deaths,
Oh,
they're taken
yeah.
by Corey, in the mask. So it's kind of like, okay, but so bro, even now talking about it these years later, I'm still like, hemming and hawing because it's almost like, "I can't believe this fucking happened, bro." Like,
Oh, me too.
you know?
Bloody Corey, when he put on that mask, I was like, "No, no,
Right?
you are not worthy of that mask. You get that mask off your face, you little urchin."
Right?
I was so not happy. I was
You
like,
are
"No one,
not Michael.
you are not Michael Myers. Yeah, take that mask off, you little shit."
Yeah, yeah. Like, you have no right calling yourself Michael Audrey Myers. It's crazy. All right. So look, let's also kind of dip our toes into again, kind of an extension, so to speak, about Michael. What are we calling Michael? This pure evil. Loomis calls him the pure evil. There's a lot of people that say he's human. He's been depicted as human. If you had to basically say one way or the other definitively, what is he?
He's a great white shark. That's
Okay.
what he is in human form. Look, I prefer a human Michael. Like I said, he's much scarier to me when he is just a human killing, but I can understand why people like when he becomes something bigger, especially if you can't buy all the damage that he takes, which I
Yeah.
get, Like I tend to look at horror movies. I'm like horror movies they exist in a slightly elevated level where, people can I mean, Chad can survive 10,000 stabs to,
Right?
everywhere. I
And
think
he's
we can
just a
allow Michael
dude.
Myers to, to survive Haddonfield coming for him. But no, because it goes back to that original movie. It goes back to
Yeah.
that original simple concept of a guy in a mask stalking a bunch of babysitters. And it just works so well. And like you said, that film, it really was. It was lightning in a bottle. I mean, I rewatch it all the time, like you. I watch it at least once a year. I will always
Yeah.
watch it around Halloween, but sometimes I'll just pull it off the shelf because I'm like, yeah, I just want to watch this. And
Yeah.
you're right. It never gets boring. Every time you watch it, you see something new or you feel something different or you see a scene that you're like, "Okay, I didn't notice that before." And so many like, Michael is so effective even without the kills. Like I said, I was
Yes.
most scared of him all of the window shots. When Laurie looks outside her window in broad daylight and he's just standing there in between "Hey, got some laundry hanging up?" It's freaking terrifying. And
Yeah.
so, for me, Michael always comes back to that original concept of he is just pure evil. He's human, but for want of a better expression, he doesn't have a soul. Something
Yeah.
in this person is just evil. And in real life, I wouldn't argue that. Obviously, I try in real life, I would say, people aren't just good or evil. There's nuances and complications to almost everyone. But in fiction, oh, yeah, I can buy into just a pure evil great white shark. And it's just, he's so precise. He just means business. He doesn't want to F around with phone calls or
Right.
games or anything like this. He's not sending in little puppets on creepy little tricycles. He just wants to come in and kill
Don't
you.
mess with
And
my boy. Come on.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's my boy. Let him have
Oh dear.
Billy.
I'm sorry, Jigsaw. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's what he comes down to from me at least. What about you,
Yeah.
Knight?
I think that Loomis, the way that Loomis makes you believe in a lot of shit, by the way, too, because like
Oh
Donald
yeah.
was just
He's
so
a great
good.
hype man.
He's the greatest hype man of all time in horror, in my opinion. I mean, he's just
Yep.
amazing. But the way that he describes him in that monologue, you it's interesting too, because obviously I've heard that monologue so many times. I can recite it. We all know it. It's great. It's always going to be great. But when he recites it, it and maybe I'm throwing a little bit out there, but even in his voice, you can feel the weight of the
Mm,
story.
yep.
I met him, you know, when and it's the way it's just Donald. He was just great as the character.
So good. So good.
But the way he talks about him, no conscience or reason, nothing
Mhm.
left within him. He hasn't spoken in years. And when you read about, and obviously I've never been in the presence of someone like this, but when you read about, those psychotic people that they just have nothing inside. It's like when you stare into their eyes, there's just nothing there. You know what I'm saying? Like Michael is like an exaggeration of that to me. He's a film exaggeration of that. And that bro, it's a lot of fear there to me
Oh, yeah.
because it's like, okay, you're a dude, you lived in a decent house, you had a cool sister, yeah, she wasn't paying attention to you too much, but whatever, and you just kill her and you just shut off. They pull off the mask when he's a kid and he just shut off. And it's like, why? What made you do that? You know what I'm saying? And of course, as the story goes on, you just see these things that he does. And so for me, I just feel like he's just pure evil, a person with just pure evil inside of them, whatever that may mean. Maybe it means that they just don't show emotion. Maybe it means that they can be shot 6 times and fall off a balcony and somehow survive. What whatever it may mean. To me, that's what Michael is, and that's what makes it so interesting. you know all of the other horror villains, Leatherface, Chucky, Candyman, Norman Bates, Freddy, Jason, all of them. They all have a story, and they all have, like, you can see, okay, yeah, that happened to you, and then this happened to you, okay, boom. Oh, that's why you're taking revenge on the kids of Elm Street. I get it. Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm not agreeing with it, but I get it. I see it. Michael is like, the fuck? What? You don't
Yep.
understand it. And
Yep.
I think that that's the thing about him. So, look, I I don't want to keep ranting because I could do this all night. That's how much I love this character. But yeah, I would just say he is just pure evil, an example of a human being that has the purest amount of evil that you could ever imagine. And on screen, that's what he's exaggerated as. And it's
Mhm.
it's it's frightening. It is absolutely frightening. Seriously, it's
Mhm.
just like, and I know I said I was going to do this, but I got to go back. The thing of it is that when they took the mask off of him as a kid, he's not there. He could literally be in another universe for all we know. When at the beginning of Kills, when they have the flashback scene, and when Michael walks down the stairs and comes out, and there's like 1,000 cops there, and he just stands there,
Mhm.
and you got Loomis, Officer Hawkins, did Michael kill again? And then I'm loving this shit. I'm like, yeah, let
So
get
good.
him. He goes out there, and Michael, he's just turned off. And, Loomis even
Mhm.
said, it's like a silent alarm waiting to be
Yep.
triggered, staring at the wall, looking past the wall to this moment. It's like, bro, we got to be careful with this guy because this is some scary shit. This
Yep.
is some scary shit, but that's
Mhm.
how I look at him. He is just he's just totally, there's an evil inside him that is so
Mhm.
strong and so pure, it almost can't even be understood. That's how I look
Yeah.
at him. Seriously.
Absolutely. No,
That's
100.
what I
I
do.
love that scene though, in Kills where you come out and the entire Haddonfield, because I remember thinking, I was like, "Okay, so we're gonna find out what happened. How did they apprehend Michael Myers?" And I remember
Yeah.
thinking, "Yeah, that's what it would take. It would take the entire and you know that the minute he stepped out, there was a moment where he was like, all right, can I do this? I mean, he just kind of went, okay, no, not worth it. And, but like,
Yeah,
that for a split second he thought, maybe. But no, I loved that scene. And I remember when I saw that and I saw Loomis, I was like, did Donald Pleasance come back from the dead? What is happening here?
right?
I thought they were deleted scenes that we'd never seen
Yes.
from 78 before because they were so well
Yes.
done. I
Yes.
love those flashback scenes. They were so,
See,
so good. So good.
see,
Yeah.
let me, I don't mean to cut you off, but see, that's the type of shit that Scream should have learned from, bro. It's like you're
Yes.
bringing back
Yes.
this just came to my mind, okay? Everybody, this is live. Make sure you're paying attention. I'm going to clip this out. You know I am. Listen, they they found a way to do this recreation of 78. They're like,
Mhm.
okay, we're going to explain some stuff, but we're also going to have you learn new stuff. See,
Mhm.
that's the key. And I was talking about this before Scream 7 came out. I said, look, if you're going to bring back Scott Foley, if you're going to bring back Matthew Lillard, if you have a flashback or something, you can have us revisit a moment that we thought we understood, but there's something
Right.
new. There's
It could have
something
been
new.
so good.
It could have been.
Mhm.
Give us something new that almost skews the way that we
Mhm.
look at things, especially for Scream, because Scream is so
Yes.
tight with the timeline
Mhm.
and events. And again, it's look, what they did with the Kills flashback, and I know some people probably even in this audience, and I know most of you guys love both franchises. You should, but I'm sure there's some that love one more than the other. But look, both of franchises, I love them. So I'm not trying to say, oh, Halloween Kills was, you, the Godfather, pay attention. All I'm saying is they showed respect to that moment, that time period, the way the house looked, everything looked just like it did in 78. Aaron Armstrong as a younger Michael, great stuff. The mask, bro, they made another great mask. Listen, there was so many of these goddamn sequels that had horrible masks, and here we get David Gordon Green and company, and they don't make just one good mask. At this point, they make a second one, and it's the original mask, a recreation of the 78 mask. So, anyways, I could go on about that, but what I'm saying is they paid respect to the moment.
Mhm.
They gave us Donald back as Loomis, but it was done in a way that worked for the story. It was respectful, and it added flavor. It added flavor. Whereas I feel as though with Scream, yes, it was great to see Matthew. I always want to see Matthew. If he had come on there singing a Disney song, I would have been like, okay, I want to see Matthew sing this. It's not helping the story much, but I want to I want to see Matthew do this. But I feel as though they didn't they just didn't stick the landing with that concept that they had with him.
Nope.
And they sure as hell didn't do that when they at the end had the little carousel of Scott Foley, Laurie Metcalf, and then David
Right.
Arquette. It's just like, come on, bro. Like, you see what they just did in Haddonfield? That's the
Mhm.
vibe. That's the vibe you want to have. So
How
yeah.
amazing would it have been if we sat down to watch Scream 7 and all of a sudden we were watching scenes like they were out of the '96 movie? Like, what a
Yes.
flashback, what a throwback that would have been, and I remember when Scott Foley was cast and then we heard Matthew Lillard, we were all like, "Oh my god, we're gonna get Maureen Prescott murder flashback," and
Yeah.
everyone was so excited, and then we just got stupid AI instead, and again, like, yeah, like you said, like, Matthew Lillard is great, but they so could have utilized him better in that
Oh yeah.
movie. But yes,
Yeah.
definitely they could have taken a lot of hints from Kills. You know, I remember when those scenes came on in Kills, I was like, "Are these deleted scenes? Where did they pull
That's
these
what
scenes
I thought
from?"
too. I was
Right?
losing
Right?
I was losing my shit. I turned to Coriander. I'm like,
Uh,
where is this from? I have seen every single thing about
mhm.
Halloween. Where did this footage come from? Has it escaped me for
It was
friggin' 30
amazing.
years or whatever? I was freaking
Mhm.
out. And then after that, whatever it was, couple seconds, and I was like, oh, wow,
Mhm.
this is so friggin' cool. It's a
Yep.
recreation, and they were able to make this actor uh look so much like Donald. It was, bro, I could have
It was
dropped a
scary.
tear. It was so
Mhm.
awesome because Loomis
Yep.
is Loomis is one of my favorite movie characters ever, not just in horror, ever. And so to see him back, for
Mhm.
that moment, it like I said, they understood the assignment,
Yep.
in general, or at least for
Mhm.
kills. They didn't really
Yes.
understand it for ends, but
But a
for
C.
kills,
They had a C for ends.
yes,
A
for
plus
ki
for kills, but a C for ends.
yeah, yeah, hey, you can't hey, look, Meatloaf said it bad, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, okay? I'm just there are people in the audience, they're like, "What are you talking about?" Learn your
Brilliant.
music. Learn your music,
Definitely. If you
guys.
if you don't know who Meatloaf is, then you might not maybe just go out of the chat, listen to Bat Out of Hell, come back. Then we'll
That's
be
right.
good.
Then we'll be good. You'll thank me. Do better. Do better.
You
Okay.
wanna when I hang on, I'll tell you a little funny story. When I was 6, my dad loved Meatloaf. He had The Bat Out of Hell on record, and,
Yeah.
there's little six-year-old me going onto the playground singing Paradise by the Dashboard Light. It did not end well, okay? Like,
Oh my
teachers are like,
gosh.
"Rachel, can we see you after class, please?"
Right, right. Oh my god. Oh wow. That's awesome though. I mean, it's a great album. Meatloaf was
It is a
amazing.
great album.
Meatloaf is awesome, man. I could sit here and talk about that too, but the algorithm will be like, "Shit, what are you
Yeah,
talking
but
about
that
music
was a
for?"
fun little segue. That was fun. There was a
Yeah.
little bit of randomness there. I like it.
Yeah. Hey, look, I mean, that's what we're all about here, man. There's a lot of cool stuff that we enjoy, and there's a lot of stuff that interestingly enough could have bridges to. So, listen, we have tackled a lot tonight. Now, I did want to do another topic, but we're going to hold off on that. Let's save that for a sequel stream
Okay.
because that alone, I think, could take us down a couple of rabbit holes. It really could. But, we tackled a heck of a lot with this franchise. Obviously, we didn't tackle every single thing because there's just so much. We're talking about 13 films, but I
Oh,
am
yeah.
quite happy where we went. And I think it was a lot of fun for you guys in the chat. Definitely let us know what you thought about this trip down memory lane. And I think touching upon so many aspects of what this franchise is, and what Michael is possibly, and how he really has defined horror, and he really has, like I said, the beginning of the true slasher craze, which was amped up in 1980 by Friday the 13th. And now again in 2018, I really think that DNA is so strong, and it has flowed within the Scream franchise and other slasher movies as well. I think Michael, that's the one thing about Michael. It's interesting. This will be the last thing I'm going to say because I could, you know me, I could I could keep going on and on. And Rachel's probably like, okay, buddy, we get it. But
No, no, it's
the
hey, it's Sunday afternoon here. I could go forever.
there you go. But the thing that's interesting about Michael's history, especially in the early days, 78 came out, opened the door, slasher craze goes heavy from 84 to like 85-ish. Elm Street comes into the game in 84. So that changes everything too. And really it was Elm
Mhm.
Street and Friday the 13th going back and forth for a couple years because Michael didn't even come back until 88 with
That's
Halloween
true.
4.
True.
So
Mm,
Michael was gone from 81 to 88, and it was just
mm.
Freddie and Jason handling things. And so it's just interesting to see how the history of the Halloween films, how it has gone. And and then of course, Halloween 4 did great stuff. Halloween 5, they rushed it. It came out in the theaters just under a year after Halloween 4, and that tells you
Wow,
all you
that
need
is
to know.
fast.
Way
Yeah,
too fast.
definitely. Mm,
Take your time, people. And then of
yeah.
course they got pinned into the corner with Halloween 5. So then you got the rocks in Halloween 6. And then I know Mustafa Akai was like, let's stop the bullshit. Let's call up Jamie Lee Curtis. It's a 20-year anniversary. Let's do a really good Halloween film. And that's what they did with
Mm,
H2O. And Jamie Lee Curtis wanted to end this thing. That was part of
yeah,
the game plan. I'm gonna kill Michael, and then of course we know what happened in Resurrection, and then they gave Rob his 2 chances, and then we took a break, bro. We took a
yeah.
9-year
We
break
we
after
we needed
Halloween
a
2.
minute. Yeah.
We
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 need
needed to recover from Hobo Michael,
w
okay? Like,
w
we needed some time to get over that.
we needed a lot of time to get over this
Look
shit.
at him.
'Cause look at him, this fucking guy. What are we doing? He's out there right. Look, I'm not gonna lie. If I went past him, I'd give him a dollar too. But shit. Let me stop. All right. So look, Michael Myers is amazing, and I love all these films, blemishes and all. And we love talking about them. We hope that you you guys enjoyed this conversation too, because I'm definitely going to clip out some of this stuff because it's hilarious. Durotan, thank you so thank you so much. We appreciate you guys enjoying it because we really enjoy it, and that's what it's all about. And so, anyways, we make sure you guys hit the like button, please. And I know May's been trying to get people to do it. She's ready to go panhandling in the hills of Haddonfield herself to get some likes on this stream. And we appreciate that, guys. I intentionally wanted to talk about something that was other than Stream 7 because I've talked about it for months. If you look at my channel, I've got dozens of Scream content packed in.
Basically
And
turned into a Scream channel the last couple of months.
it
Like, if
really,
you want Scream content, come
yeah.
tonight.
Well, I mean, myself, and I'm not afraid to do it, but Jake and even Fate, we talked about this as the collective. We love talking about this stuff, but we also want to talk about some other stuff too. And sometimes, have a palate cleanser of sorts and so
Yeah.
forth, which we will be doing some interesting stuff on the channel. I'm just going to tease that. I'm not going to say what it is. We'll see what people do. That's what I always say. We'll see what people do, what they like. But anyways, make sure you guys subscribe to Rachel if you haven't already. We've had the link in the chat multiple times. May, thank you for doing that. We got the links all over the channel because she's just awesome on the panel. Always love having her come on. Rachel, thank you for doing this. We
Thank you for
really,
having me. I gotta
yeah,
say, JT's got a great idea. He said, "Go fund me for Hobo Michael to get a shave." I like
look
it. I like it. We can do that.
at yes, bro. I almost should do a t-shirt like that. I've been thinking about it so much. Like if people really would buy it or whatever, I would take the time to design it because I've been thinking about some
100%.
hope.
I would.
Eh,
I absolutely would. Look, we all know I have a little bit of a soft spot for Hobo Myers, and every time
I know.
Knight wants to like tear him down, I'm like, "No, man, come on. My boy just needs to eat. It's just a dog or two, you know. And someone's running into him. I'd grunt too. Look at him.
Wow, look
You
at him.
know,
Look at
just
him.
needs
This
a good
guy.
haircut."
I tell you, I tell you. Duratan, thank you so much, man. Seriously, I
Oh,
appreciate that. And by the way, and I try to answer as many comments as I can. Sometimes it takes a little while because I'm doing everything, guys, and I only have a finite amount of time. I work full time, have the family, but I do pay attention to you guys as far as comments. And Duratan, man, you've been on like multiple videos. I'm talking about videos from 3-4 years ago. That's what I'm talking about. We appreciate that. That's what allows a channel to do what it does and allows us to keep doing what we do. So thank you so much for that. But anyways, guys,
just want to say,
have
Nate, though, I just want to give you some kudos quickly. That's
sure.
got to be a reflection on you, like people don't stick around for years if they don't love the content and if they don't appreciate that. So when you see people having been here for years, just remember that's a reflection on how awesome your channel is. I mean, I love coming on here.
Oh,
I love being in the chat. I love being on the panel. You are always so lovely and so welcoming to everyone. So just remember when you're thanking people, like it's great, but that's kudos to you too. So I just wanted to remind you of that.
well, thank you. I really appreciate that seriously. And like I said, I just have so much fun doing this. That's the bottom line. It's just such a passion and it's fun and I love the conversation and meeting so many cool people through this platform has been a blessing. I've made friends, some of the best friends I've ever had in my life. And some that aren't with us anymore, but still in spirit. And it's
Amazing.
really it's a big thing, man, and it's because of the love of film. It's like, that's pretty cool. That wasn't a game plan when I was a little kid, watching some of these films, who would have thought? But it's been amazing. So, I really appreciate the opportunity really to do this because not many people get a chance to do it, let alone be able to do it for a long time and also be able to have people like you, Rachel, come onto the panel, be happy to come onto the panel. That's a huge thing too. I don't belittle that because you're taking out time from your day. It is the day for you right now, and you're taking the time out to join in on a conversation, and that's pretty darn awesome. It really
It's pretty
is.
cool.
So, anyways, much love. But you guys in the chat, you guys are awesome. I can't say it enough. And we just had Kenny jumping in. Ben, thank you, man. You guys and Carrie too. Seriously, all you guys. You guys don't get me tearing up. Come on, guys. You know how it goes here. But I really do appreciate all of you guys, and I do want to say, just like with all channels that do this for a long time, you do have to continue to widen the lanes and push forward and do things that can hopefully bring that passion and joy that you have inside. So anyways, keep your eyes open, and we will catch you guys next time. As always, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.